Hello, Isabella from Pride Tie here, and today we're having another instalment of our antique garment series, when I'm just sharing whatever's in my collection and whatever's going to be used or not. I have another corset for you today, sort of 80s, 90s style Victorian, and it's a real treat actually, because it's quite debatted, really. Loads going on here. It's been well used, well loved, repaired, adjusted, taken in, repaired again, sewn in a very bizarre technique. I mean, what is that? Still, it's a fascinating piece of garment history, so I'm looking forward to giving you some more information about the fabrics, materials, pattern, techniques, and all the alternations and details that might be used to a lover of antique costumes. So without further ado, let's have a look. Let us have a closer look. This is an amazing piece, to be honest, for a variety of reasons. I suppose the most striking fact is how worn it is and how many times it's been repaired. Where do we start? Okay, let's start on the outside. It's made predominantly in glazed cotton twill cut on the side of the grain, so you can just see a little bit of herringbone going horizontally as opposed to usual vertical arrangements. And that's the outside. The inside is plain cotton, two different cottons, very light, and they look like boning channels, but I don't actually think they were used as boning channels. They might have, and the bones could have been removed. I might be wrong, but at the moment it looks like these guys here were used just to hold the pieces together in quite an unusual construction. But they are made in the same fabric, obviously, as the rest of the corset. The front has been repaired and covered with black satin. Not very well, as you can see. They didn't have enough to cover the top of the bustline on one side. But obviously it was not a aesthetic issue, it was just repairing. So whoever had this corset had had it for a long time, wore it a lot, and then reshaped it as needed and repaired it as needed. It features a really lovely spun busk. You can just see it peeping over here. It's black, plain steel, not covered. And the busk is beautifully, the busk loops rather, are beautifully embossed, engraved, I suppose. And that's really the only thing in the whole corset that is still sound and usable. I suppose eyelets are not too bad either, but they look to be put inside out. Or maybe they're just unusual eyelets, but no, they're inside out. The washers are put on the outside of the corset as opposed to the usual one. So it's most likely a homemade article that has been worn and reused and repaired and reshaped a lot of times, and not very well most of the times. The basic structure is quite interesting. The corset is corded with paper cord, and you can just see the cording sort of peeping through. So that's very stiff paper, which is quite typical for sort of 80s, 90s corsets as well. I'm using my usual book to help me date it, so you can see a lot of corded corsets at that time. These are 90s, and obviously we have spun busks at the time. So there's quite a lot of that going on. It could have been made in 80s and worn throughout the 80s and 90s, just being repaired all the time. But what is really striking is the construction of the pieces. Usually with 2-layer corsets, you either sort of sandwich pieces as you go. I think you can see it in one of my videos. If not, we'll need to make one. Or if it's you just sort of stitch both layers together and put a channel on top or on the other side. Here, it looks like the two pieces are not connected at all together, just laid edge to edge with the channels or tapes laid over on both sides to keep them together, which is very unusual in corsetry and obviously didn't really work very well because it's all coming apart, and you can see how often it's been repaired here, very crudely, when the pieces actually do come apart. So it was not a very successful technique, but having said so, it lasted for quite a while, I suppose, from what we can see. Not sure what happened here. Someone must have slashed it with a knife at the very least, but it's really difficult to cut through the paper cording. But here, somehow, someone was successful. Obviously a lot of tension at waist. You can see the cords here a little bit better actually on this side. And I don't think you can take one out. I'm going to try. Oh, there you go. All broken out. A bit of a cord paper. So the construction is a really, really interesting and unusual thing about it. Repairs, very crude, but possibly lasted for quite some time. And apart from that, you can definitely see the corset has been worn. It's not like it's been put 3 times and the construction didn't work and it fell apart and was repaired. No, it was worn a lot. You can see the worn sides at the sides of the channels. The back has been also covered in the tape to additionally protect the steel bones. There's the only steel bones here, and you can see the steel bones are, I'm not sure if I can take it out. I might need my pliers. Are not even filed, they are just quite sharp. So no wonder it poked through several times. Lacing is very short, and I suppose it was added after. So I will see if I can relace it properly with some of my cords. It's obviously too short for anything, so it must have been added much later. I find these little patches quite cute, but also you can see it has been made smaller by taking out some fabric here and here, very crudely. I mean, just who does that? That's really shoddy work. This one the same on the side seam, all taken in, or probably make to work better because it was falling apart. As you can see, there was some repair here earlier, more one damage. But they didn't even bother to use, matching thread. Just, yeah, why not? Let's put a red one in and some blue because, well, I don't know what they were thinking. Difficult to say. Possibly they couldn't be bothered to change the bobbin, and I'm quite familiar with that dilemma. Same here on the other side. Just red. What? No blue? No blue. Just red and a little bit of white. And similar chunks are being taken out. I think 1, 2. Oh no, that's just on those 2 places, and a little bit in front. And this one was just clearly falling apart. So a really interesting piece. It will be interesting to see what shape it would give, but obviously difficult with things like that. That gives at least another more than ½ an inch of ease. But I will try to put it in a dummy and see how it works. I will probably take a pattern out of it for my next book. It will be quite interesting to see it remade just scale to my own body measurements, and I probably will use the antique bust because that's the only thing that is really good here. The rest is just a shambles. But I think it sort of carries a rather important message that not everything in the past was perfect. Yes, we tend to glamorise the past, which is not really the nicest thing to do, to be honest. Yes, it's all nice gowns, but life was not that easy. And many people could not afford ready-made corsets or make corset made to measure, so they improvised and made their own. And they were definitely made, to last, or at least hope to last, like this one. This one, I suppose, didn't last as much as hoped for. It's nicely padded here. But once they had them, they would repair them and restyle them and wear it again and again until it was no longer usable. Something we should really take into consideration nowadays, with fast fashion filling our landfills with lots of once-used t-shirts and polyester rubbish clothing. So that's one of the messages. Make use of what you have, repair it, restyle it, until it basically falls apart. So I think remaking that would be a bit of a tribute to the person or persons in the past who took so much, I wouldn't say love and care, but at least care. Maybe they were not skilled, or maybe they were in a hurry, or they couldn't be bothered, difficult to say, into that one little garment. So let's see how it looks in a dummy. Right, I managed to get it in a dummy. It sits slightly at a slant, which might be either because the wearer had a back problem or because of this, it just doesn't pull enough, or maybe it was just adjusted in a sloppy way. What am I saying? Maybe. It's a little bit too big for the dummy, but obviously I didn't want to strain the seams as they are. But if I remake it, I'll possibly go for the original measurements and just mark how much has been taken in and out if necessary. But to be honest, it still gives quite a nice shape, although the loop-sidedness is more emphasised by this little bit here. And as you can see, any traces of any binding, well, this has just been stitched shut. But any binding, I think there's some remnant at the back here. Has only been cut off or disintegrated for whatever reason. This has to be taken in, I suppose. But I think in its heyday, when it was first made, even if it was without the black weird panel, it would have been a really striking corset and quite comfortable considering all the cording. I'm quite glad I got it. It would be interesting to remake it and see if I can get similar style. I would not make it with the original construction methods because it just would not last as much as I would want to for frequent wear for me. Not really convinced. So I might go for usual either sandwich or exterior channels on top. And I might add a little bit more boning because I'm a little bit more, well, I need a little bit more support basically, especially in the bust area. So this might not be just enough. I will experiment and see what happens. But I hope you've enjoyed this little bit. So if you think your own corset is not good enough and it's looking quite, makeshift and homemade, don't despair. That's absolutely historically correct. Voila.